Good morning and welcome to another Instagram Live. My name is Jordan. I'll be hosting today's session. We're going to meet up with a current student on the Thunder Bay campus. Her name is Simran. She's from India, pardon me, and she is in Applied Life Sciences. So we'll give her a minute to join here, and then we'll dive into some really cool topics. We'll talk about her academic experience, her involvement in clubs, her student life, all that sort of stuff. So we'll give her a minute to join, and then we'll get going here. Good morning. How are you, Simran?
Morning, Jordan. I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. I'm excited to do today's session. I know that we had our pre-conversation and we have quite a bit to talk about, and we have lots to dive into as well.
I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome. Well, I'll start off with my general introduction and I'll pass it over to you. For those of you who haven't joined us before, my name is Jordan. I am an International New and Social Media Officer here at Lakehead University. And I help run our social medias, help do lives, all that sort of stuff. Otherwise, I'll pass it over to Simran to introduce herself.
My name is Simran, and I am in my 4th year of Applied Life Science here in Lakehead University. I am originally from India, and for people who have joined us from India, I am from Karnataka.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. And you're studying on the Thunder Bay campus for Lakehead University. Awesome. So something that I always do with our co-hosts or our special guests that are current students, to help our audience get to know you a bit better, could you share some fun facts about yourself, what you've been keeping up with while in quarantine or while social distancing?
Once my summer break started, I have picked up on my embroidery project that I stopped during my Christmas break. So I'm working on it to finish, and it's a tablecloth that I am knitting.
For sure. And then with that embroidery project, have you taught yourself how to do it? Are you following tutorials? What does that look like?
My grandmom and my mom taught me a little bit when I was younger, but then after coming here, I'm trying to learn newer techniques.
For sure. Awesome. And you were going to say something else. Sorry, I interrupted there. Go ahead.
I've also been reading a novel, The Pilgrimage, if you guys know about it. And so far, it's interesting. Let's see how it ends. I recently started it.
Fair enough. Yeah. What's your are you a big novelist? Do you have a favorite book in mind?
I don't get to read a lot of books once the semester starts, so I make sure that I read at least 4 novels during my summer break. And so far, my favorite have been The Alchemist. It's by the same author, Paulo, and that novel is my favorite. It's just so meaningful and interesting. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure our viewers, for those of you joining us, sounds like that's a pretty strong recommendation to read that book. Maybe I'll pick it up myself this summer too. I also have quite a bit of free time on my hands. So one of the first things that I like to talk about is kind of putting yourself back in your shoes when you were in grade 12, or I know that you took a year off between high school. So putting yourself back in those shoes and making the decision to study abroad in the first place. What helped you narrow it down to Canada and then eventually, of course, select Canada leading up to selecting Lakehead University?
Well, Canada was my parents' preferred choice, so other countries did not really come into the option. I was more focused on studying in India, but then as my gap year went along, I decided that moving to Canada will be a better option for me. And then I have had relatives in Ontario, so my parents definitely wanted me to be somewhere closer to them, so I chose Ontario after that.
For sure.
And about Lakehead University, it was an agent who suggested me a few universities, but I met the requirements for Lakehead University better. And along with that, I'm sorry, is my voice breaking?
No, I can hear you perfectly, yeah.
Okay, that's great. So once my agent suggested me the university, I did my background check. I did not really do a lot of research on university, but when I looked at Lakehead University, it had some points that caught my eye for sure, like the small campus. That's the first thing. Like when compared to other universities, it has a smaller classroom size, which is great. That like for instance, I just a month before the pandemic happened, I was at one of an event, and my teacher from first semester, she met me there and she recognized me, and she also said, "Oh, I remember you was used to sit in third or fourth row of plant bio class."
Yeah.
And that made me happy. Like she actually remembered, she related me to one of her lectures that was what, 2.5 years ago.
Yeah,
So
and that's a
that's
big
the
gap,
benefit.
obviously.
Yeah.
And being able to make that connection with your professor and for them to recognize you many years after the course itself, that definitely, I think that's a great story that speaks to the efforts that we put forward in offering the small classroom environment. Were there any other reasons that Lake had stood out for you as well?
Yes. When I was researching about the university, it also said that Lakehead University provides us a good platform to perform research. And back then, research did not mean a lot to me, but now that I look back, it has made a huge impact in my life, and it had really made me improve and then think out of the box. And I feel good about myself of that I kept that in consideration when I was choosing my university.
For sure, yeah. And I mean, as you mentioned, looking back, maybe research wasn't necessarily your number one reasoning. But now that you've studied in the program for 3 years, what would you say about research in terms of like how important it's become to learning the theory in a practical sense?
Like everything that we do in mostly all the lectures, they have a lab component, and most of the time they go hand in hand. So the concept that we are learning in our lectures is somehow related to the experiment that we are performing in our labs.
For
So
sure.
every time when we would study the theory, it would just give us an idea, but when we would perform and when we would get a result out of it, or even if the experiment failed, we would learn the reasons behind it, like experience it, and it helps us remember better. It just
For
helps us
sure.
remember better.
And I think that also speaks to the hands-on learning environment that is really important within applied life sciences and biology and just in general, many of those programs that are kind of encompassed within there. So another thing that I always like to dive into is, now that we've narrowed it down to why Canada, why Ontario, and then of course why Lakehead, and you've arrived at Lakehead, you've been here for a few years now. But again, putting yourself in your shoes in the weeks leading up to your departure of India and heading to Canada, what were you most excited about?
I was very excited about finally starting a university. Like, as Jordan already mentioned, I had taken a gap year, and I could not wait to just take that step forward in pursuing my dreams. I was really excited about that in the first place. And then I was also excited about learning things on my own. I have never really been a person who would really go out and do things on my own, because I always had my parents, my brother, everyone guiding me and like making sure I'm fine. And I definitely missed that. But then now I knew I had no choice. I had to be there by myself. I had to be independent, and I was looking forward to that part as well.
For sure, yeah, and I know that we hear that from a lot of students, is that there's a bit of that that nervousness of being independent and doing stuff on your own, but then there's also such an exciting point to that of like you get to start building these life skills and you're becoming more independent in general.
Yes.
And then also speaking about, obviously, in the weeks leading up, you're excited about the journey, but just while you're excited, you might have fears or you might be nervous about certain things. What were some of the things that you remember that come to mind?
Like you just said, being independent. Though I was excited about it, I've also feared it. I was also nervous about it because I had never ever taken local transportation to go around my city. But
Hmm.
here, all I can take is a bus to go wherever I have to. So, as much as I was excited about it, I was very nervous about that fact as well. Like, I have to get things done on my own now, no matter what.
For
So,
sure.
yeah, that was something that I was not where I was nervous about. Yeah,
What do
but
you think has been the most positive outcome of some of these skills that you're learning and the independence that you're growing?
I have learned how to cook. I did not like kitchen. I
Very
never
nice.
no, I have never stepped into kitchen when I was in India, and like I was so bad that I did not even know how to make the 2-minute instant Maggie noodles.
Hmm.
Yeah, but now I can live by myself now. I have learned enough cooking for that.
Fair enough. Yeah. And
Yeah.
what's your go-to like recipe or meal? Is it a family one or something that you've picked up along your independence journey?
Um, I usually follow whatever my family used to cook back home. I just call my mom, ask her for the recipe, and then go ahead with that. That's
For
my
sure.
go-to.
Awesome. And were there any other things that were concerns or things that you were a bit nervous about?
Yeah, I was definitely concerned about language barrier.
Hmm.
Um, it's not, I mean, we come from a different place. English has never been our first language. So that was definitely something that I knew I had to face after I went there. So that, yeah, for sure, language was a big barrier for me back then.
And with the language barrier, once you actually arrived on campus, how did you find your English skills? Because of course you met the academic English requirements as per the admissions requirements. So once you actually arrived on campus, what were some of the best assets for you, and how did you end up coping with that?
Um, like I said, like sometimes it just depend on the group of people I would talk to. Like if I'm talking to an international student, they would better understand where I'm coming from, so it would be easier to talk to them. And that also kind of gives us a safe space to practice our English skills. Like the more students we meet, the more we communicate, more we improve.
For sure.
Along with that, when it came to attending classes, frankly, for at least a month or two, I had problems understanding what the professors were trying to teach. But that did not really stop me from going to the classes and like doing the self studies. I did not go for that option. I instead continued going to all my lectures, and eventually the lectures seemed just normal. Like now I don't have any problem understanding what the professor has to explain.
And I think that also might speak a little to the difference in the style of education between what you were used to in high school versus the
Yes.
university environment.
Yeah.
Lecture styles, or just each professor has their own
Yeah.
style of
Yeah.
teaching. So that might speak to kind of that transition piece. And I know there's plenty of supports and services in place to help students in that transition.
Yeah.
Did you rely on connecting with the professor if you were confused on topics, or did you get peer support, or did you use any of the supports at Lakehead during that transition period?
I feel like when I was new, when during my first semester, I relied more on peer support, but eventually I felt more comfortable just approaching the professor with my doubts. But my first step would always be to talk to my peers, see if they have the same doubts, so if we can approach the professor as a group, or if they could help me clear my doubts. So it
For
was
sure.
mostly my peers.
And with regards to the language barrier, was there any other techniques or things that you were involved in that helped you improve your English skills and your confidence in those skills?
Yes, being a part of clubs and putting yourself in situations where you have to talk, you have to step up and then you have to talk. In putting yourself in such situation, taking part in events, joining clubs, going to club meetings, those things really, really helped me improve. Like, even if it was not personally to talk, I at least got a sense of how people communicate here. So yeah, participating in as many activities as possible, that
For
really
sure.
helps.
And I know we're going to dive into the clubs that you've been involved in
Yeah.
and sort of the student life later on in today's live. And jumping back to the original topic at hand, was there anything else that you were a bit nervous about in your last few weeks before you headed to Canada?
I was very nervous about leaving my family behind. Like,
Fair enough.
very nervous. My parents, my grandmom, and my brother especially. I was
Mhm.
very nervous about leaving them behind, and now coming to this place where I'm like 9.5 hours time difference.
Yeah.
So I was nervous about that for sure.
So how do you stay connected with your family with the time difference and obviously with the physical distance too?
Yeah. So we talk a lot. We at least call each other 3 or 4 times a day, and it's always video calls.
Yep.
Even if we're not able to, if suppose I'm in a situation where I can't video call them, I always send a voice message or a quick voice call. But other than that, we at least see each other, even though it's just phone, but we see each other at least 3 to 4 times a day.
For sure. Yeah, and even that virtual connection, seeing
Yeah.
someone's like their facial reactions and
Yeah.
just interacting with them on a video chat is obviously more personal than shooting them a message or just calling them in
Yeah.
general. So it's good to hear that you're staying connected with them, obviously quite frequently.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you've probably, with the time difference, maybe you've reached out to them late at night or something, and they're
Yeah.
probably there at your beck and call.
If it happens, yeah, it happens very often.
Fair enough. Um, and then speaking about the actual arrival on campus, I know that you mentioned you were a part of the peer mentor program.
Yeah.
And I know you've been involved as a mentee, so in your first year coming to Lakehead, and now in your previous years, now that you're an established student, you've also been a mentor. Could you talk about your first year experience with the peer mentor program?
Uh, the peer mentor program holds a very special place in my heart because my mentor helped me adjust to this changing situations so much better. Like my mentors made it so much easier for me to transition, like from a personal email even before I arrived here. It gave me a sense that I have somebody I have to go and meet over there. Like, there is a face waiting for me. So it
Hmm.
gave me a sense of that. And then once I came here, from opening my bank account to encouraging me to participate in different clubs, my mentors always supported me. And that's why I hold this program very close to my heart.
Awesome. Well, I'm
Yeah.
happy to hear that they were able to so significantly make an impact on that transition, because we know that's such an important
Yeah.
process and piece to the journey at Lakehead. And then speaking a bit about your experience in the following years when you became a mentor, why has that been such an important experience to you um, to then guide students in a similar situation as you were just a year ago?
Um, as that program made my transition so much easier, I always look forward to giving back and helping the students that could be my mentees. So I joined the peer mentor program last fall, and the best thing that came out of that is my mentees really enjoyed the program, and I got to meet such amazing people. And then we all are still in touch. We would just on a random message each other or still ask doubts. And what I realized was, the more you meet new students, the more you learn. Like,
For sure.
it had happened that I would go to my mentee with a question and they would help me find stuff.
Yeah, I
So
mean, obviously you're there to guide them through experience because you've lived it, you've
yeah.
done it, you know kind of the common needs of a student that's arriving on campus.
Mhm.
But obviously they're bringing knowledge too, and you might have questions for them, or they might be in a program or be a part of something that you also are interested in. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a cross collaboration and a knowledge sharing program.
Yeah.
For those students who are watching right now, if you're interested in learning about the peer mentor program, you can head over to our website, lakeheadu.ca/international. And there is a dedicated section to the peer mentor program under the current student tab, as well as the future student tab now that I think about it. And obviously that's run out of our International Student Services office. So if you have any questions, we always encourage you to connect with them as well. So moving on to a really big topic now. Obviously, studying in a university, one of the most important things to all students is academics, not to discredit the experience and like student life and everything else that you experience in the university, but obviously you've selected Lakehead for academics. So diving into that, let's chat about how did you end up picking your program? I know you mentioned a recruitment advisor had kind of directed you towards Lakehead and encouraged you to apply, but obviously before that you would have had to reiterate, I'm interested in the sciences. So where did that all start?
So as long as I remember, I have always been interested in going to a med school and then becoming a doctor. So I have always walked on that path, and then this university was the first step towards that, because I have to finish my undergrad before I can go ahead and apply for the med schools here in Canada. So that was one big thing. When I started my career, my academic career here, and along with that, my agent also kind of helped me. They kind of got an idea of what I was looking for, and then they did suggest me a few programs, and I had to go look into the details of that program to finally choose that I would like to go with applied life science program.
For sure, yeah. And speaking more about applied life sciences, I know that students are often curious, or they're maybe even slightly confused the difference between applied life sciences and maybe a biology or even a physics or something. So would you be able to speak to that difference?
Yes. So applied life science, whether it's bachelor's or an honors program, it's a 4 years program. But we also have, Lakehead also offers bachelor's in biology or honors bachelor's in biology, which is a 3 and 4 years program respectively. And what the difference that I have found between the two programs is, if we are going with the 3 years biology program, the first 2 years are very similar to applied life science, but then the third year is where the courses are very different. Along with that, what I feel is that applied life science have more programs that get you into research, get you into the learning the technical skills when compared to the biology program.
So on the topic of the program itself, what has been your favorite aspect of the program, or even favorite course within the program?
Favorite aspect about the program is that I get to dive into so many different courses, different subjects, because I have a number of electives that I can take. So I don't really have to keep myself limited to that biology or the chemistry portion of the course. Instead, I can take a number of different courses. I've taken psychology because I'm interested in learning that part, and then I have also completely went out and taken subjects like MRI physics, which was an amazing choice. I got to learn a lot from that course.
And that was an elective course, you said?
Yeah, MRI physics was an elective course.
Awesome. And then also a bit more about the program. I know that you mentioned that you're going to do the honors, which is the 4-year applied life science program. Is there another aspect to kind of what makes that a good part of the program?
Yeah. Now, if we talk about research is very important if we are planning to go to a med school, or even if you're planning to go to any other master or professional school. Could it be just for a master's degree, or it could be some other professional school? Research makes a very important part of that.
For sure.
And the more experience you gain, the better it is. So honor thesis, it is about us connecting to our professors regarding their research and seeing if we can get an opportunity to work under them. And what we get from that is a lot of useful experience, very important contacts, and also 1 credit, because honor thesis is a year-long course.
For sure.
So we get a full credit for that. We really get to learn a lot from that.
And obviously, you mentioned that you get teamed up or paired up with professors based on kind of where your passions lie and what their field of expertise or their research goes. So I think that also speaks to the fact that you're being guided by a very knowledgeable person who has proven already within their career that they've made some significant impacts. So I think that's really interesting to hear. I have a few questions in the comments. The first one is, hey, I got into the media studies program for undergrad at the Aurelia campus. Congratulations. And they would like to know a bit of insights on the Aurelia campus. So we do have 2 campuses here at Lakehead. One campus is in Thunder Bay, Ontario, and that's the campus where I work in Simran Studies. But we also have an Aurelia campus, which is in central Ontario. It's about 90 minutes northwest of Toronto, sort of. And we have a student population of roughly 1,300 there. If you would like to learn more about the Aurelia campus, I certainly encourage you to head over to lakeheadu.ca/tours. You can take a virtual tour of either one of our campuses. You get to see the buildings, the facilities, the classrooms, all sorts of stuff. Obviously, the outside and what it looks like with the beautiful nature. There's no appointments necessary. It's all done at your own pace, so you can log on whenever you feel you have the time. If you're interested in actually hearing more about the Aurelia campus and some of the student experiences, if you head over to our YouTube channel and you go to Lakehead University's YouTube channel, you go to the playlist Lakehead International Lives, there's going to be some lives with a few students that were on the Aurelia campus. One was Yvonne. She is also a media studies student, a media, film, and communication student. So she can speak about your program, and also she dives into the campus itself. And then on top of that, we also have Katya, who is a student from India. She was studying HVA English with also criminology as a minor. And we dove into that program, and on top of that, we dove into the Aurelia campus. So you can learn more about them. I do have a few students lined up, hopefully next week, for the Aurelia campus for a similar Instagram live. So definitely stay tuned, watch our stories, follow us on our social media, all that sort of stuff. Diving back into the topic at hand, academics and whatnot, have you been involved in any research within your program? I know you mentioned that research maybe wasn't at the forefront of your train of thought at the beginning or when you first applied, but obviously now you've recognized its importance. So what have you been involved in thus far?
If I'm talking about the courses, as I said, every course almost have a lab component but I've also had some courses that were completely based on the lab. So we had experiments that would go from day 1 to the last day of the semester. And like that is actually one of my favorite experiments that I've conducted so far. I was more about growing a small piece in different environment, and then after it had reached a certain age or after a few weeks, we then utilize different parts of that plant to analyze for different things, different like the nitrogen level and all those small things, and in the end we had to write a big paper based on our experiment. So now we did perform a lot of new techniques during that lecture, during that complete course, but all those techniques were building upon each other. So it was just like there was something I could connect. I could go back, look at my lab manual, and I knew what I was doing. So it was all step by step.
For sure.
And just working on that project during the lab and then working on the report, it was definitely hard on its own, but it was fun and it was worth learning.
Awesome. And I know you mentioned that the project started on day one and basically went to the very end of class.
Yeah.
So just to kind of clarify, on day one, did you actually take the pea seeds
Yeah.
or little plants and you planted them yourself?
Yeah, we took the little seeds and then we went through a whole process of moistening them, putting them into different petri dishes and or test tubes, and then growing them.
For sure. And then obviously once they actually started to sprout, and you said that they were in different environments, so they had
Yes.
different maybe additives or
Yeah.
they had different things
Yeah.
that were involved in their individual growth process, which then you could actually do the research on.
Yeah.
That's really interesting to hear that it was like a continuous learning and you were involved right from the get-go at the beginning. Um, is there any other aspects within research that are important to you or that you've completed?
Yeah, last semester I also took a course that allowed me to work under one of my professor and complete a manuscript. And
Okay.
it was a big learning opportunity because before this I had never participated in something like that.
Hmm.
So I got to write, I first of all I got to learn a lot under her guidance. And then I also learned how to perform a research properly, like follow the steps, and then I also got to write the complete manuscript with her, which was a great learning experience.
For sure, yeah. We have a question from a student. What are the job opportunities after this course? So I quickly pulled up kind of our program page on our website where
Yeah.
we analyze the future careers and we also take into consideration where we've seen some of our students go.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite a lengthy list, so I'll just highlight
Yeah.
the first few maybe. Um, but with applied life sciences, some of the future careers that are listed here are a microbiologist, a diagnostic radiologist, a forensic lab assistant, a geneticist, a food analyst, a biotechnical engineer, X-ray tech. There's a quality control technician, environmental chemist. There's definitely a lot. There's also a botanist, a zoologist, a marine biologist, bioinformatics specialist, or programmer. Some really big variety to the job opportunities,
Yeah.
and I think this also ties into the fact that you mentioned one of your favorite aspects of the program is the really broad learning and the
Yes.
ability to choose electives based on your passions.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, all of the jobs they just listed come from so many different fields, and not everyone's going to want to do every single one of those jobs. There's going to be students that just say like, no, I just want to do something with uh, chemistry. All the power to you. There's jobs in there, and you'll have electives that you can pick, but also the people that want to do like zoologists or marine biologists,
Yeah.
they might want to look into the more animal side of the research. And I know that there's also concentrations within the Department of Biology, which the Applied Life Sciences kind of falls under.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely courses that will suit all of these different career opportunities. So moving on to the next part, I know we prefaced this as the student lives and sort of the clubs you've been involved in, some of your volunteer efforts, all that sort of stuff. So we'll start off with clubs. What have you participated in the last few years?
So when I joined during my first year, as I said, my mentor encouraged me to, and then I became a part of the Lakehead Biology Association,
Hmm.
um, and I was their international student representative. So we would have weekly or bi-weekly meetings, and then we would all meet together to decide on future events, and then I would basically represent the international student body and give my opinion on what kind of events would we prefer. And one of my major role was to get the international community, uh, engage the international community in with the club.
For
So
sure.
I would promote their events among my friends, among my connections, and then also with the international office. Yeah.
So obviously, I think that speaks to many, many clubs on campus that have executive positions or representative positions. We've seen through experience, I've seen at least many international student positions. obviously providing an opportunity specifically for an international rep, but
Yeah.
also that provides future growth opportunities
Yeah.
and more a stronger voice within the committee itself. So then
Mm-hmm.
you are, like you said, you're connecting with the International Student Office, you're connecting with the community partners to make sure there's more involvement, and then also just kind of bringing it to the forefront to with international students and saying like, here's this opportunity, you should come out and join, you should come out and participate.
Yeah.
And then I know after your first year, you transitioned into a different club in a similar role. So do you want to speak to that and then where that role led you also?
Yeah. So after my first year with labs, I moved on to pre-med society as I found it more of my interest, of my personal interest,
Mm-hmm.
because it is basically to uh, teach students about the resources available before they get into a med school, what are the steps to follow, and all. It's based on those things. So I got myself into that club, and I started as an international student representative, but then I moved on to taking the event coordinator position while I continued representing the international student body within the club as
Mm-hmm.
the steps that they have to follow, that a domestic or a permanent resident student has to follow, that and steps that an international student has to follow to get into a med school are very different.
For
So
sure.
I kind of put that view in front of the club.
Of course, yeah. And then I know you mentioned that that role transitioned from the international rep to an event coordinator.
Mhm.
Do you want to speak to kind of what that role now looks like?
Um, yeah, so I moved on because they kind of thought that I better suit the event coordinator position while I continue to represent the international students. But then I can have a more legit position within the club and put forward my points better.
For sure.
So the transition was for that.
Awesome. Um, so then moving on to kind of your volunteerism and your efforts within the community. What places have you volunteered at? What sort of roles and jobs have you been involved in?
So in the beginning, I started off with the Frontier College, and I would go to a girls and boys club to help. It was just an hour per week, but it was so much fun. We would talk with students, help them, sometimes just play cards with them or help them with their homework or engage in other activities. So that's where I started from. And then I went ahead, and then recently I also started volunteering at the hospital, which has been amazing until the pandemic came and I had to discontinue my volunteerism. But until then, it was an amazing experience.
For sure. So within your role at the hospital, what's kind of some of the main things that you do while volunteering?
So at the hospital, my position is at the information desk,
Hmm.
and it's more like I'm the first person that the family and friends of different patients come in contact with. Sometimes even patients who would just come for an appointment, and I'm sorry.
No worries.
Sometimes patients who would just come for their appointment and they were confused where that part of the hospital is located, and I would guide them to the right place. They would come with the patient name, and I would kind of give them the information about where the patient is located or personally escort them to the place. And it also involved the role of keeping uh, the front desk organized. So the front desk of the hospital, right next to it, the main entrance, we have a lot of
Mhm.
wheelchairs. So we would kind of disinfect all the wheelchairs in the beginning of our shift so that they're ready to use if people need them.
For sure, yeah. And then speaking about both of your volunteer opportunities and your experience within that, what have you seen be the most significant or positive outcome or impact from those?
Um, I got to meet a lot of new people. Like Frontier College would have special summer programs, and we would go to this beautiful Marina Park and host events there, meet so many new people, and then I would also get to help people, like give back to the community. So that's personally what I have gained from my volunteer experience, is that I got to help. And
For
then
sure.
being an international student, I feel like volunteering really helps you get to know the city better. Yeah, it really helps you to get out, go put your hands in different things, and then learn different skills. Also, it helps you kind of understand that there are a lot of career opportunities available, and you don't really have to stay limited. You kind of get to explore things around you and see what suits best as a career option for yourself.
For sure. And I think that that also speaks to maybe going into your university career. There's two sides to it. There's some people that go in and they have their mindset set on that
Yeah.
dream job, the final goal. And then there's other students that are kind of going into it because that's their passion, but they don't necessarily know where they want to end up or what career path they want to take.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting involved in the community, taking upon these volunteer opportunities and learning about the different career paths and the career opportunities too,
Yeah.
is so important. And I know also with your goal to eventually be in med school, having the extracurricular and the volunteer experience itself is
Yes.
so important too.
Yeah. For every person aspiring to get into a med school or any professional school, they really need a huge list of extracurricular activities. So so that also makes my program unique, because it gives me 4 years to kind of work on all those extracurricular activities and make my resume better. Yep. And
For
I
sure.
would also like to highlight that once we start volunteering, we also make ourselves aware of different career opportunities that are available within the organizations.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I
So
mean
that
that
was.
that also, I kind of think that speaks to my path quite well, in the fact that um, I started at Lakehead many years ago, well, 5 years ago now. I was a student there, and then I heard about this opportunity to work on campus, and then ever since I had been a student worker on campus, and it eventually led to having a full-time job with the university in international enrollment, which is so exciting. So I think getting involved in these different organizations is so important, and
It
like
is.
really speaks to the opportunities it opens up, and also the networks that you build, because obviously in my different roles within the university, I feel like I'm well connected to many different
Yeah.
departments for sure. So one thing that I typically like our students to do is to share a photo with our audience members that kind of represents the moment that you were at Lakehead in the last few years, where you were just having some of the best times of your life and you really realized that you had made the right choice in Lakehead.
Okay. So for that, I have a picture of myself during my first snow, and
For sure.
the lake behind me is the Lake Tamlin, which is on campus.
Hmm.
So that was the first time that I got to see snow in my real life, not just on camera. And
Yeah.
I was so happy that day. And I actually realized that, okay, I am not in India and it's winter.
Yeah,
It's that
fair
part
enough.
of the year.
Yeah. So in the winter when it is snowing, how do you stay active, and what do you get up to with your friends outside and whatnot?
Um, I think during winter, it really gets hard to encourage yourself to get out and do something, because you don't want to leave your room that much. But we would, there's something that I like to do every winter, is to take a trip to Centennial Park,
Hmm.
because I absolutely love that place and how beautiful it looks during winter.
Yeah.
So I make sure that I go there once a year during winter, especially. So that's one thing. And then we would make snowmen. We would make snow angels.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that you see in those famous movies, or
Yes.
the very typical things
Yeah.
to do when you see a first snowfall is build a snowman, do a snow angel. And I'm
Yeah.
sure many of our viewers probably might not even recognize what that is right now. They might know in the back of their mind they might recognize a video, but they don't know the name for it.
Oh,
But I know that so many students say that that first experience is just like kind of magical almost,
yes.
because you always see it on TV and
Yeah.
whatnot, but you never get to do it in person
Yeah.
until you're actually here in Canada, or obviously in a snow environment.
Yeah.
Also, have you done any like skating, tobogganing, skiing, snowboarding?
Oh, I'm not very adventurous person, and I always have that fear that I'm about to fall and get hurt. So
Or
I try to stay away from those activities. But
yeah,
I remember my friend forced me to do snowboarding,
yeah.
or I don't know, snow sliding, something like that. Yeah,
Hmm.
he made me do that, and that was really fun, though I was so scared.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, but let's see. Maybe this year I'm planning to try and learn ice skating.
I think you have to. It's a
The
Canadian thing. I
Canadian
mean,
thing.
I obviously I'm born and raised here in Thunder Bay, so I know how to skate. But when new students come that haven't experienced snow in the first place, haven't really experienced ice or
Yeah,
skating, it's not just like walking on
yeah,
pavement, or it's not just like even rollerblading even.
yeah.
It's a different experience, but we always encourage, and having on the Thunder Bay campus Lake Tamblin right at the heart of campus freezes over in the winter.
Yes,
Students can skate right there. So if they're living on residence, or in residence, I should say, um, it's literally a 2-minute walk
yeah,
to the lake. Obviously, if you're off campus, you can still come to campus. We have the buses running, and I know many students pick their housing off campus to be centrally located, or at least easy access. So um, that's always amazing to see and hear about those first experiences.
mm-hmm.
So to kind of summarize today's live event, I always like to give you the opportunity to just share with your friends, our viewers, future students, what advice you would give to them.
Um, so the advice that I would like to give is you guys are anyways gonna take your first step by coming to Canada and move out of your comfort zone. So once you reach Thunder Bay, don't do not think that that's the end of it. Keep pushing yourself, keep stepping out, keep going out of your comfort zone whenever necessary. Not always take a break. You don't have to always put yourself in situations that you don't want to go, but make sure that you don't stop making connections. Make sure you don't stop attending events, no matter how busy you are with academics, with job. It gets really hard to stay up to date with the campus events, but point out some events that you would really like to get into and get involved, and make those things a part of your student life.
For
That
sure, yeah.
will definitely make your experience so much better.
And I like how you said that sometimes you get so caught up and so busy in academics and work and just life in general that you don't necessarily know all of the events going on
Yeah,
campus. But when you first arrive and you have the opportunity to be involved in so many different events and participate in so many different things, that's what we encourage you to do.
yeah,
Find your niche, find your favorite thing to do, and then once you kind of have that, at least then you know, okay, that can be my go-to for the next couple months. And when things get busy, I know that I can at least still do that.
yeah,
And then when I have more free time, I can start getting involved again and reaching out and having new opportunities and new experiences.
yeah. I find like when we just arrive, we have so much energy within ourselves that we are more than willing to put ourselves in different situations. But as the time goes on, that energy kind of fades away, and we start keeping ourselves more limited. So try not to do that, even if it's hard or if it's at time overwhelming. Try to participate, make new friends, go out with your friends, have fun, and along with that, attend attend your lectures, kind of get to know your professor. I think that is really, really, really important.
Do you have any other advice related to new students coming in?
Also, like I would like to say that the university has a lot of support system available for us, and make yourself aware of it. Like, so when time comes, you know you can get help, so that you don't get into the situation where you feel helpless or you feel overwhelmed and you don't know what to do. So make yourself aware of all the different resources that this university has to provide. It can really, really help you in a long run.
And I speaking to that, I have like a small point to add on is the fact that we don't expect future students or new students to know about every single service or to do all this on their own. We have dedicated international student advisors that work with me, like on my team, and they're there to then kind of listen to you, hear about what you're experiencing, all that sort of stuff, and then at least guide you to the right department. If they can't help you directly or personally, they can at least point you in the right direction because they do have the full knowledge. They're fully trained on all sorts of different services and supports. And obviously, they've been working at the university long enough to know sort of where exactly you might be best suited to go, if, of course, they can help you.
Yeah, along with that, in that way, the peer mentor program also comes in very handy. The moments when you need like instant reply, or maybe you do not really want to contact somebody who has like a position within some department, you can always talk to somebody who have actually gone through all those things. So you have that instant connection with them. Yeah.
Awesome. So I would be remiss if I didn't address some of the questions that were submitted on our story. So this first one is, where are you from, and when was your intake?
As I said, I'm from India, Karnataka, and I joined Lakehead University in fall 2017.
Awesome. And then the next question, I like this one. What are the differences between the curriculum compared to India?
For this question, I feel like with every passing year, India is also kind of understanding, like people are more getting aware of different volunteer opportunities that are available in India as well. But when you compare, that really makes curriculum activities a part of your program. Like, you would want to do that, participate, and the university, your friends, everyone is going to support you participate in extracurriculum activities. Could it be campus events or involvement with the city of Thunder Bay? You would have a lot of fun participating in those activities, and they would mean a lot, not just something that you can put on your resume or something that's going to help you professionally. Something that's going to help you, it will make something that's going to help you personally.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you again for your time. I know that we dove into so much today and we covered a lot of ground. We chatted about academics, we chatted about your journey to Lakehead and your arrival at Lakehead, also the selection of Lakehead. We are so excited to obviously continue on with the path, and I know that I look forward to working with you in the future. To our viewers, thanks again for joining us. It was a pleasure having you, and thank you for all the questions. We really appreciate answering them and you submitting them, of course. Tomorrow we will be doing a Faculty Friday webinar, and that will be with the Department of Biology. So it will tie into this sort of with the sciences, and we'll have a faculty member live with us to chat about that experience. So if you're interested in joining us tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, if you head over to our Facebook channel, there will be a post up very soon with registration links for that webinar. Otherwise, I'll say bye for now, and thanks again for joining us.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.